Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's proclaimed the greatest radio show.
Welcome, Steelers Nation. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with co-host Jay Dash. Going to keep our Pittsburgh Steelers draft coverage going. We talked a little bit about some corners, safeties, tight ends, offensive linemen, some linebackers. We've talked about a wide variety of players so far in the offseason. We're going to go back to some of the cornerbacks and some of the safeties that we talked about. We're going to look at their combine results and see if it helps or hurts their draft stock at all as it pertains to the Steelers. Dash, the first guy we're going to talk about is Florida State's Jalen Ramsey. He is listed as the top-rated corner on basically everybody's board, and I've also seen him listed as the top-rated safety on a lot of people's board. So I don't really know for sure what position he's going to play in the NFL.
Well, 6'1", 202 pounds. I mean, it'd be a nice size for a corner, I tell you that.
I mean, Mike Mayock of NFL.com, a lot of the people on ESPN.com, they all have him ranked as a cornerback, but then you go and look on just like the written articles, maybe not the videos, and you see him pop up on all these safety boards. So I guess he could be a tweener, but for our purposes, we're going to consider him a cornerback.
Yeah, when I did a little bit of research for a couple of the top teams picking in the draft, I seen him listed at both cornerback and free safety as well. And there was a lot of people saying this guy was going to go as high as number 3 in the draft. And really, I can't see it. I think there's better players out there that should be drafted above him, and he should drop at least a little bit lower than that.
I've seen a couple places have the Raiders taking him at 4. I think they picked.
4.
So, or maybe the Cowboys are at 4 and the Raiders are a little past that. But this guy, he had himself a good day at the Combine. He ran a 4.41 in the 40. That's the 7th fastest for cornerbacks. 4.41 still pretty good speed. So saying it's the 7th fastest, you still have those.
Did you compare it to free safeties too?
No, this is just 7th fastest for corners.
Okay, I was just wondering what he ran compared to safeties.
Oh, he smoked every safety.
Yeah, I would say so.
He would have been the fastest safety as far as anybody who's considered to be able to do anything legitimate. I mean, you got those guys who are going to be unrestricted free agents or whatnot that might make it. But like I said, he's 4.41. That's good speed. People that you think you have to have 4.3 speed, that's not normal. You know what I mean? You don't see that a lot. Very rarely does a team even have one guy that has 4.3 speed. Or if they do, it's their kick returner. Speed doesn't always transition into talent, but it helps, definitely.
Yeah, it's always nice to have speed, but I tell you what, I've played against a lot of football players in my day, and speed had nothing to do with how good these players were.
Believe it. Now he did 14 bench reps. That wasn't even in the top 13, but it wasn't really in the bottom half either. That's pretty solid for a corner. He's not a guy that you expect to come up and, for lack of a better person, like a Troy Polamalu, he's not going to be this box safety if he moves to safety, diving over the line, making tackles. He's going to be more of an Ed Reed style safety if he plays safety, where he'll be able to put a big hit on you out in the open field, but not necessarily always coming up into the box or rushing the quarterback.
Well, he'd be a free safety, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Mike Mitchell, I don't know how good of a free safety he is. Could you move him over to strong safety? I'd probably say not.
Probably not. I don't know if he has the turn and run, like the recovery speed. You know what I mean? If he would get beat.
I just don't trust him to make the sure tackles.
Yeah, he's always trying to headhunt.
So I don't know how well this guy would fit. I mean, he'd fit fine. Don't get me wrong. But I just don't think this guy's the biggest need for what they're looking for right now, unless they really want to make him a corner.
Right.
And then that's a totally different story.
I think most people will. His vertical was 41.5 inches. That was the first among cornerbacks. His broad jump was 135 inches. That was the first among cornerbacks. He's either the first or second corner on almost every single draft board. He's not going to make it to the Steelers, basically, especially after this pro day showing what he can do athletically. He'll be the first corner or safety, because I don't even know after looking at some of these safeties if there'll be one taken in the first round. But Ramsey will definitely be the first one of the defensive backs taken. And Pittsburgh, unless they trade up, which we don't really have the firepower to do, probably not going to happen.
Yeah, agreed. So what else?
The next guy is Vernon Hargraves out of Florida. A little smaller at 5'11", 198. He had a decent 40-yard dash. He ran a 4.5 40. He had 15 bench reps, which was the 13th best at the Combine for a corner. His vertical, not too bad, 39 inches. That was fourth best for corner. And his broad jump was 130 inches, which was the third best for cornerbacks. So he kind of had himself a really good day. He's the smaller one of the corners expected to be taken in the first round. Some people have a little bit of concern with his smaller size, but 5'11", 198, that's not big, but it's not small. It's not 5'8", like, you see a lot of these slot corners.
Yeah, 5'11", there's no problem with that at all.
I mean, he was the most valuable player at the Under Armour All-American game, way before the Combine. He's a guy that's expected to be able to keep up with receivers even if he has to play slot corner for the first few years, but he's definitely expected to move into an outside corner position at some point in his career. I have seen him go to Pittsburgh in one or two mock drafts. There's a little discrepancy between second, third, and fourth ranked corners in the draft right now. A couple different places have him ranked a little bit different. Hargraves on most of them is ranked number 2, but some of them he's ranked number 4, and they actually have Pittsburgh getting him. So there is a possibility that this guy could slide down to Pittsburgh at 25, just depending on how these other teams value all these different players.
Yeah, I've seen he's been compared to Joe Hayden a little bit, and I mean, Joe Hayden, he's not the best player in the world, but you also got to consider he went to the Cleveland Browns, and they really don't develop players very well. So Joe Hayden, when he was coming out of the draft, he looked like he was going to be a very good player, and I wanted the Steelers to take him, I remember. And if they would have got him, I believe he would have been a better corner than he is with Cleveland, and I would take that in a heartbeat in the first round.
I mean, we said it before. He's a good guy in press coverage, off coverage, zone coverage. He had 38 passes defended and 10 interceptions over the last 3 years. He's definitely expected to slot in as somebody's number one corner. Maybe not day one, but in his career, he's expected to become that solid number one guy.
And I think that's what we were talking about with the Steelers here earlier this offseason. I mean, even if you make changes at cornerback here, there isn't going to be a total overhaul in one season. It's not just going to go from last to first overnight, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's going to take a while. So if we do end up drafting a corner here in the first round, don't expect the secondary just to be great out of nowhere next season. It's going to take some time still.
Yeah, not a lot of guys come out like Marcus Peters and have 8 interceptions in their first year, and
Right.
I don't expect Peters to get 8 next year. They're not going to throw his way as much next year.
The only reason Peters dropped as far as he did in the draft was because he had some off-the-field issues. I think he was the one that choked the coach, correct?
Yeah, pretty sure.
So, and he only made it to 17 as well, you know what I mean?
Well, you know what I think their theory was? Andy Reid's neck is so fat that he couldn't fit his hands around it to choke him, so they were probably safe.
Yeah.
The next guy we got is Mackenzie Alexander out of Clemson. He's 5'10", 195 pounds, another cornerback. He only did the bench reps at the Combine. He had 11 bench reps. He didn't really participate in any of the other drills. Clemson's pro day is March 10th, so he's expected to take part in the drills there. Sometimes they feel more comfortable doing it their own, stadiums with their own athletic trainers and their, whatever. These guys are so superstitious. They don't want to lose draft stock. So if he felt like that it was going to make him or hurt his draft stock, then they're definitely going to do it at the pro day instead. He's considered anywhere from second, third, to fourth corner. I don't see very many places having him number 2. He's pretty much a guy who's either third or fourth. Eli Apple is the next guy we're going to talk about, is the guy that's fluttering between 3 and 4 with him. Eli had a really good day at the Combine, or 4 days, whatever you want to call it. I know it's not all in one day. So Alexander may have hurt his draft stock by not participating. With all these other top corners participating and doing very well, then you have a guy like Alexander come up, all he does is bench reps, can't even run. I mean, I don't know. He may have, tweaked a hammy or something. We don't really know, but I don't know.
Well, you have him listed at 5'10". I see him at 5'11", but either way, 195 pounds. This dude's stocky. I'm surprised he couldn't be a safety.
He allowed just a 29.6 completion percentage and no touchdowns in 2015 for Clemson. He's a guy with good recovery speed. He can close the gap if he gets beaten. He's a little shorter than, a lot of outside corners, but it's not like he's real short. Like you said, I got him at 5'10". Some places have him at 5'11". He's a little intense, I guess I want to say, which is good, but he gets caught up in trash talking a little bit. He can take a couple personal foul penalties maybe in the NFL. You're not really even allowed to swear, I don't think, out on the field anymore. I mean, trash talking it's weird. It just gets you penalties, and it's not a big thing the Steelers are going for.
This guy actually has played much better in man situation in his past, so we'll have to see if he can adjust and play in a zone type coverage.
Yeah, it's not something that everybody can do good. Willie Gay didn't play that great his first stint with Pittsburgh. He left for Arizona for a year or two and came back, and then he kind of figured it out. He's definitely a lot better. It's not for everybody, zone defense. You got to be able to read the quarterback and almost react before the play's coming. Whereas when you're in man coverage, you're right along with the receiver,
right.
Just kind of hand fighting or whatever, and the ball comes to you.
Yes, I find man coverage much easier.
Which is weird because most people would totally disagree, but I totally agree. I like zone coverage, being able to try to sit back and read the quarterback, but
the quarterback can straight torch you.
Believe it. I mean, I never played any high level football, but even in backyard football, if you're trying to sneak,
and if one person makes a mistake in zone coverage, you're screwed.
Oh yeah, that's it. All it takes is one safety to take too many steps forward, and you get beat over the top, and it's not even the corner's fault because you're not. You don't have deep coverage. The last cornerback we're going to talk about, he's quickly becoming my favorite to be drafted for the Steelers if they do take a corner.
Well, I see him on a lot of mocks, the Steelers taking him.
Eli Apple out of Ohio State. He's ranked 33rd overall by, I think it was Draft Tech when I looked it up. He was the 4th best corner. He had a really good 40-yard dash, 4.4. That was the 6th fastest at the combine and the fastest out of any of these 4 guys we talked about. He did 13 bench reps. He didn't take part in a lot of the other drills, but his pro day is on March 11th. But this guy started 14 of 15 games as a redshirt freshman during Ohio State's national title run. To pretty much start an entire season as a redshirt freshman is pretty impressive. He has good footwork. He moves fluid with receivers. He can move into the slot and play there if he has to, or he's good on the outside. He has good size. He had 22 passes defended over the last 2 years. He doesn't read the quarterback's eyes particularly well. He's better in man coverage, so that's another thing that he may have to adjust to in Pittsburgh's scheme. But, I mean, for all we know, Pittsburgh could be trying to adjust their scheme to fit the NFL a little bit. Keith Butler will be in his 2nd year as defensive coordinator. I'm pretty sure Butler's smart enough to know that even if he wanted to run a different style of defense, you have to run what your strengths are. So he ran with what he had. He used his strengths, his D-line and his linebackers to his advantage. Maybe they do want to start playing some more man coverage, so maybe they can bring other people in that excel at that.
One other thing I heard about this guy that he really has to improve on is not using his hands as much. He likes to grab the receiver a little bit too much, and in the NFL, that will get you in deep trouble.
Not allowed to touch receivers anymore. Don't even sneeze on them or you'll get in trouble. But I like Apple's size. I like his athleticism. Like I said, it's kind of being between him and Alexander, 3 and 4, basically with Ramsey and Hargraves at 1 and 2. I don't. There's no chance we're getting Jalen Ramsey. I mean, the Steelers would just have to trade up. It's never going to happen. But one of the other 3 guys, or possibly even somebody that we didn't talk about, there are a lot of corners. I'm hearing that there may be 5-6 corners taken in the first round this year. It's a lot of hearsay. We'll have to see how the draft shakes up. The Titans have said they wanted to trade back, or they're open to trading back at least. The San Diego Chargers have said that they're open to trading back. Maybe a team wants to move up and grab a quarterback, and one of those teams drop back and end up taking, one of these corners right before the Steelers. You never know how it's going to turn out. The one thing I don't think is going to happen now, as I've been doing more research, is Pittsburgh taking a safety in the first round. I thought maybe the top 4 corners being gone, Pittsburgh would go after the best safety, but I don't.
It is scary because, I mean, you think back in the NFL drafts, how many times have you seen 4 good corners in one round?
I know. That's the thing. You never can tell, but I mean, there could be those freak years. I mean, how many times do you see...
doesn't... Well, listen, the first 3 corners could suck, and then they could draft a good corner. I'm not saying that they couldn't, but it's just a scary situation. It's kind of a reason they stay away from corners in the first round sometimes as well.
In 2004, or was it 2004 that Ben was drafted? I mean, there was 3 quarterbacks in the top 11 picks that were all pretty damn good quarterbacks. 2 of them got 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
The first safety we're going to talk about is Darian Thompson out of Boise State, 6'2", 210 pounds. These combine numbers aren't great. I'll read them to you in a second. But everybody says this guy has destroyed his draft stock with these. He ran a 4.69 40, That was 13th among safeties. Not great. He had 12 bench reps. Didn't even rank in the top 13. He had a 32.5-inch vertical, 13th for safeties. And his broad jump was 118 inches, whatever that accounts to in feet, 13th for safeties. This guy is 6'2", 210 pounds. What do people expect out of somebody that big? You're not going to be a freakish athlete like Antonio Brown, running around the field at 5'10", $185. Come on. This is a big guy like a Cam Chancellor-style player. He was ranked 42nd overall by Draft Tech early in the draft process. These aren't great combine numbers to me. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying 4.69 is pretty bad. You want your safety running around a 4.55, 4.5 or for the faster ones, But the 40-yard dash doesn't tell the story because how fast do they move in pads and how fast do they move on a field with other people running around them? It's totally different. And B, like I said, this guy is just big and strong and physical. His strength was never, I'm the most athletic guy in the world. It was, I'm athletic enough at my size to make an impact on the field, and especially along the line of scrimmage.
Well, he has to get better in both man and zone coverage, actually. This guy, he is a work in progress, but you're right. I mean, he has the size for the position. So, I mean, I don't know if I'd want to take a chance on him here in the first round.
I don't either, yeah. Before, maybe, with just some of the stuff I was reading before all the combine and everything, but he is looking like a good second-round pick, depending on where you pick. Or I think he'd almost be a steal in the third round if Pittsburgh could pick him up there. I doubt that'll happen. Although I do think he's better than that Duke safety who we're not even talking about because I just screw that guy.
Okay.
The next guy we got is Jaron Kearse from Clemson, 6'4", 205 pounds, another really big guy. He ran a 4.62 40 at the combine. That was 9th among safeties. He had 16 bench reps. That was 7th. 31.5-inch vertical was 15th, and his broad jump was 124 inches. That was actually 5th among safeties. So about the same size as Thompson, but a little bit more athletic. Thompson and Kearse, I've seen in a lot of places, were considered around the same safety before these combine results came out. I think Kearse vaulted himself into the first round, but I think he may have got more attention from people, especially with his size. I mean, you have somebody back there that size, it changes the game. The Steelers have struggled to find a replacement for Troy Polamalu. I mean, even in Polamalu's last year or two, he wasn't the same. So the Steelers' defense wasn't the same. This is a big, athletic guy who could take the place of a Troy Polamalu and almost be that style of player where he's athletic enough to run around and cause ruckus, but still big enough to come up to the line of scrimmage and stop the run.
Yeah, the only thing about a guy that size is you have to worry about how well they turn their hips when they got to turn and run.
Right.
So that's one question they're going to have to take a deep look at before they think about taking this guy, which I don't know if they will or not. Again, I really don't want to take this guy in the first round.
You know what? These safeties, it's pretty much a second-round conversation, really. I mean, even some of these guys might not go in the second round. Like I said, a lot of these safeties just didn't do themselves very well. They did themselves dirty as far as this combine goes, and none of them really stand out as a first-round pick. So we did have them as possible first-round picks before, but now these kind of are like really good second-round picks. The last safety we're going to talk about, he is a sleeper, I guess I want to say. Dion Bush out of Miami. He was
Dion.
He's 6 foot, 202 pounds. Early in this draft process, pretty much as soon as the season ended, I seen this guy ranked as high as the 4th best safety in the draft. Now, I don't know why, because these combine results are pretty damn good, I'm hearing he's a 7th round pick or an unrestricted free agent. I don't know what happened in that time. Now, a lot of the tape that he has from this past season wasn't very good. He didn't have a great 2015 season. But he played better in, prior seasons, obviously, or he wouldn't be considered to be drafted at all. But listen, this guy had a 4.64 40-yard dash. That was 11th among safeties. But he had 17 bench reps. That's 5th. A 36-inch vertical. That's 6th. And 123-inch broad jump. That's 6th. So he ranked in the top 6 or better and in the top 11 in 3 or 4, whatever the best categories or most looked at categories out of the combine. He's a physical player. He's not afraid to hit people. He tackles well. He's a determined special teams guy. He'll come out, play hard from day one on special teams. He doesn't change direction real well. Not the most agile guy, like you were saying before, trying to turn his hips and run.
Part of why he's not there. I mean, they really see troubles in that area with him. So I think that's a big reason why he might go lower in this draft.
He has a lot of trouble, too, reading the play before the snap. He's not a guy, he's not the most cerebral guy, I guess I want to say. He's more of an instinctive, athletic guy. He needs to learn the game better to become a breakout safety. But this guy, if they could pick him up with one of their 3 7th-round picks, he's not going to start day one, don't get me wrong. I'm not even going to say he could make an impact. But if you could pick him up,
special teams thing going on.
But if you could pick this guy up and maybe bring a Will Allen back for this next year, or maybe Shamarko steps up, or maybe Eric Weddle comes to town. I mean, there's a lot of maybes still. It's still so early. But Dion Bush, I might take a chance on this guy in a later round. Maybe they can even package 2 7th rounds to move up to the 6th if they feel like other teams are looking at him kind of late in the draft. But he has all the intangibles athletically. Can the Steelers teach him to play? They haven't been able to groom defensive backs very well lately. So that's a little bit of a worry to me.
No, you could say they haven't groomed defensive backs very well lately, but they also really haven't brought in very high talented cornerbacks as well. I mean, the one they did bring in got injured immediately, so we'll have to see really how that turns out. I mean, they really got to start bringing some more high impact players in at this position.
Bryant McFadden, you remember him? He came in, had a good couple years for Pittsburgh, and then he went to Arizona, I believe, just like Willie Gay, and then came back and was just garbage, and then they cut him.
Yeah, garbage.
Yeah, but that's it. Those are all the corners and safeties we talked about. Pretty much the safeties dropped themselves all out of the first round. All the corners we talked about at least solidified their position. Mackenzie Alexander, maybe not, with only doing the bench reps and not running or anything, but like I said, Clemson's pro day is March 10th. I'm sure he'll take part in all those drills as long as he's healthy. Nobody hides from NFL teams. These guys are athletes. They want to showcase their abilities. So if they have a chance to do that, they're going to do it as long as they're healthy. But there's a real chance that Pittsburgh could take a corner. I've been saying a lot during the offseason, I don't think there's any chance. They never use their pick on a corner. It depends on how much they value the 3rd or 4th best corner over the 2nd, maybe first D lineman or offensive lineman. And I'm not talking one of those pass rushing D linemen because they're all going to be well gone before us, but maybe the first, the best nose tackle in the draft or something.
That would be nice.
We'll see how it goes. But there's actually more of a chance, I think, now than there was a few weeks ago of Pittsburgh taking a cornerback in that first round.
I mean, corner or D lineman? If they go anything else, I'm kind of disappointed, I would have to say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and you got to go nose tackle unless you're going to move to
right
4-3 or something, because you got Hayward and Tuitt on the ends. So, yeah, too many number 1 picks, and I'm not hating, but we have enough number 1 picks, I should say, at the linebacker position. It's got to be nose tackle or DB, and not any of these safeties anyway.
And you know what they say, an apple a day keeps the deep ball away.
Please believe. Fans, any questions or comments, anybody you think Pittsburgh could be looking at, or any news you hear, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimtowin. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming back to YouTube and click and subscribe. A little bit of a slow week for Steeler news. We'll try to keep it going for you next week.